Greetings and welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Poly Weekly News. This is for Monday, September 19th, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues who are going to talk about an announcement that we had put out in the middle of last week. So Rory Ferguson and Robert Manacero here, representing the Clariti and the Poly Lens team and developers team and all the other wonderful engineering that goes into that. Rory, let me start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell everybody how you got to Poly, what you do here.
Thanks very much, David. So my name's Rory Ferguson. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Clariti in Poly. I've been working for Poly for about 9 years now in a number of different roles throughout services and then into engineering and now into product management and very happy to have just taken over the Clariti portfolio.
Terrific. Thank you, Rory. Thanks for being with us today from the UK. And Robert, please again introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Thanks, David, and thanks for having us. Robert Manacero here, Director of Product Management. My new initiative these days is being responsible for everything API and integration related on the Lens and software platforms we have today at Poly.
So Robert, as long as you're talking, tell everybody what was the big news that we announced Wednesday last week. What's the big hoopla about?
I mean, last week was exciting. We had three major launches. The first one is our brand new Poly API Marketplace, which is our new platform where our developer community can find and connect and access all of the APIs from Poly and our vast system of different software offerings and solutions. That's the first part.
Okay.
The second part is it was the first time we released the Lens APIs, and that's really going to enable all organizations out there, whether it's our customers or our channel partners, to build a new experience on the Lens platform today. And then the third part, David, is we created a new way to discover and integrate with all the great APIs on the Clariti platform. So it's a three-part launch, really exciting stuff.
Okay, so we're definitely going to get into the API marketplace as we go forward, but you got to take a step back from me now that everybody's familiar with everything you guys are saying. So what is Clariti, Poly's Clariti, and what is Poly Lens? Like we've had it on the show for a while, but we still have people that don't understand it. So Rory, why don't you take us first? Explain to me what is Clariti?
Okay, so thanks very much. So Clariti is our private video core infrastructure solution. It's been around for over a decade, and we've got a lot of excellent customers that have been using it for a number of years. It enables customers to connect not just their Poly video endpoints, but also third-party video endpoints into meetings along with their desktop or mobile clients, and so that they can connect to those and share content and do everything that they can now do in the cloud, but do so on premise.
So it's a cloud platform that in a sense is available for people that don't want to join up with any of the other existing cloud platforms. It's private, it can be used in any way you need.
Any way you need, absolutely. It's on premise, so it's private to that individual customer, and is very much well used across the globe.
Terrific. That's a good explanation. And Robert, I'll ask you the same question about Lens at a very high level. We've talked about it a long time, but how would you describe Lens in a brief manner?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we even had Lens on your show just recently, last couple of weeks.
It's the Lens show. Every other week or so we have
Lens
but
show.
That's because it's changing so much. It's
yeah, exactly. So for those that don't know, Lens is really our next generation device management insight platform that was born about 2 years ago, actually, February 11th, 2020. I know the dates well. And it was born out of a need to provide really the next generation management insight experience for new devices coming out of Poly. So at that time, it was launched with the Studio X and the G700 at that time. Over the past couple of years, we've been really focused on building up the platform to provide a really excellent management insight experience for now most of the devices at Poly, including video, headsets, desk phones, and everything in between.
So they're now managed via this portal, which is no charge to anybody. People who have the Poly gear can go in and use the portal. They can manage tools. They can do settings. Poly Lens desktop lets people adjust devices like the P15 that I'm using today. So it's really just a universal management tool plus some, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's been our philosophy from the beginning there, David, is we wanted and we know we needed to provide our customers with a really next generation management experience table stakes to really create a good experience with all the devices from Poly. So our philosophy is there's always going to be a base free element to the Lens platform. And that's what we've built over the last couple of years. And you've probably seen some of the news lately. We've been building out more premium elements that are wrapped under the Poly Plus and Poly Plus Enterprise packages as well.
Exactly. So we actually happen to be in the middle of a storm, the middle of a flood of announcements that are coming from Poly over the last few weeks and over the next few weeks. And I've seen some of the ones coming up. I can't really talk about them on the show here, guys, but stay tuned because we're a few weeks away from some massive ones. But let's take a step back for a second. We had the announcement that Director AI features, people framing, are now pushed out to more of our devices. They're now on the R30 and the Poly Studio. So as we continue to develop and work with agile frameworks, we're moving that software out. We had a beautiful announcement last week about the Android devices, that they're all now going to be upgraded exactly in time so that they'll all be compatible not just with Microsoft Teams and with Zoom, but with all the platforms that we support. So that was an announcement that came out last week, and that was great, and that helped break down some FUD from some of our competitors. And this announcement was essentially around developing an API marketplace for, I assume, customized experiences on both of these platforms. So, and there are more, like I said, there are more amazing announcements to go, but this one's amazing in and of itself. So let's take a step back. Rory, what does it mean to you for Clariti? What kind of APIs are people now going to be able to develop?
I mean, the great thing about the Clariti side is that the APIs have always been there. They've been there for a large number of years. What this provides to Clariti, though, is the ability to innovate with them, to explore them in a very developer-esque environment, play with them, test them out against a Clariti stack that we've got out there in the cloud, so that they can feel that they've got the right syntax that they're using before they then go and play with those and then use those in perhaps their own lab or their own production environment.
So they can customize things, and I assume, Robert, it's the same thing, from a Lens standpoint, where people can go in now using these APIs, which are new to Lens, and be able to create custom experiences.
Exactly. I mean, when we first developed and released Lens, it was built on a GraphQL playground because we knew we needed and wanted to provide that flexibility to our customers. We just needed a little more time to build that foundation to get to a spot where we're really proud of the experiences that we can enable through those APIs. And now we're here releasing them to the world.
So why is this portal different? What's different about these APIs for Lens and how people approach them?
I think, well, if we take a step back, Polycom and Plantronics have had their own versions of developer portals over the time. And so we really took this opportunity with the announcement and launch of the Lens and the Clariti APIs to really understand what makes a good developer experience. And that developer experience was really our guiding light when we decided that we really needed to build something different. We've learned what works well and what doesn't work so well in our last developer portals. So we took a step back. We went and talked to a bunch of our customers, partners, developers, and everything in between. And we wanted to understand what makes it tick, what makes a developer community really tick. And so at the end of the day, it was just making it really easy, seamless to find the relevant APIs that are needed for developers' use case. It has to have a community element to it, and it has to be something that's scalable and really easy to access over time. So I think, David, that's really what led us to RapidAPI. And if you don't know, they're the platform that is driving our new API marketplace. In meeting with them, talking to them, one of their philosophies is focusing on the developer experience. They have whole teams focusing on developer experience and build on new things for their marketplace customers over time. So that's really exciting. Not only is this like the first launch of a brand new marketplace and developer experience, but it's only going to get better over time. And that's really thanks to our partnership with RapidAPI and the teams over there. That's when we met them. This partnership really made sense. It's what we needed to do, and it's what we wanted to do. And so we're happy to deliver it to the world today.
So why don't we take this opportunity to play for you a conversation we had with the leadership from RapidAPI a couple of days ago, just so they can introduce themselves and what they do, and then we'll come back and get some demos in. So joining me right now is the CEO of RapidAPI, and I'm sure I'm probably going to butcher your name, Ido Gino. Ido, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Hey, David, great to be here and thanks for having me.
So we've had Rory and Robert tell us a little bit about what we're doing and what we're creating with our developer platform through you, but put that aside for a moment. What is Rapid API?
Yeah, so at the high level, Rapid APIs and API hubs, right? So we help developers all around the world discover and connect to public APIs. We have over 4 million developers leveraging our platform, tens of thousands of different APIs available on our platform. And it's really kind of like we love speaking about APIs as the Lego pieces or the Lego blocks that you build software out of. In that kind of analogy, Rapid is the Lego store where you can buy and see all the different pieces. And then obviously we have, and this kind of ties into the Poly conversation, the enterprise version of that, where we can take the same platform, but bring it into other contexts and companies and help them kind of create their own API hubs and developer ecosystems.
So as a layperson, not as an IT person or as a developer, as a layperson, would I have in my typical life interacted with things that were developed on this Rapid API platform? Anything from your customers that I would be aware of that I would have heard of?
A ton. There's not all of the names I can quote, but I mean, I'm in New York City, and the hotel that I checked into, I know that the app behind the scenes is using a bunch of APIs for Rapid. If you rent some of the scooters that are all around the city in San Francisco, the geolocation, the mapping, the notification, that's all powered by APIs that are on Rapid. So yeah, there's, I think, a few billions API calls that are kind of going through the platform every week at this point on Rapid.
Okay, that's good to know. And again, I didn't want you I wouldn't want you to reveal, customer names when you're not allowed to do that. But it's likely that during the course of a normal life, we will have interacted with things built on your platform on a regular basis.
Yeah, and they talk a lot now about how the average application has, dozens of different APIs powering it. Definitely the more complex applications that we use today, there's a very high likelihood that at least some of those API calls are ending up routed through Rapid API.
Okay, that's good to know. So how did we hook up with you? How did Poly and Rapid API get together? Just if you can give us the 1 or 2 minute version of that, if you know.
I think with Poly, the conversation really started around kind of seeing the need or Poly looking for certain solutions around delivering its APIs to especially partners and customers that want to kind of create better integrations on top of the Poly ecosystem. And I think initially we just started the conversation of, hey, we're in the API space. Maybe talk about some of the best practices, some of the things that we're and trends that we're kind of seeing in the market. It became pretty clear to us, like, hey, Poly is doing something really interesting. We know the company, we love the brand. We actually use Poly equipment all throughout our conference rooms. So we were actually really excited about the use case and kind of seeing APIs go into that industry. So we were pretty excited early on to start the conversation and about the potential of working together.
And how long were you working with the Poly team to develop what was released this past week? Do you have any idea how long the project was just to get it kicked off? I mean, I know no API platform, no project is ever over, but how long have you been working to get it to this point?
So it's been a couple of months in the making of just bringing kind of the platform and the basic APIs into the platform, getting everything configured, everything connected. And I think that you're totally right. It's one of the things that we're actually happy about in working with Poly is seeing this more as a journey and not as a kind of point in time project. And I think Poly has a pretty mature point of view in how you guys are approaching it, where, let's get something out there, get an MVP in the hands of customers and developers, still deliver a great experience, but also kind of do it fast so we can start getting feedback and iterate on it over time.
Okay, that's very interesting. So I'll ask you one other question just about where the company came from and starting up. I mean, how would one start up a company that's essentially the Lego blocks or the Brixie blocks of the industry? How would you decide? Because so many organizations desperately need this ability to open up their platform and let developers work on it and do things. It must be a really interesting niche for you to have thought about and developed and created the organization.
Yeah, I think it's the most interesting kind of place to be in right now, right? Like every piece of software now is built on top of dozens of different APIs. I actually kind of discovered this whole space where I was organizing hackathons and events around helping new developers get into the world of software development. And we quickly realized just the power that APIs have in helping developers create applications really quickly. So if you think about creating a basic app, You integrate Facebook, boom, you have user management. You integrate Twilio, boom, you have text messaging. You integrate Stripe, boom, you have payments. And very quickly, you're able to create a pretty powerful, fully working application. So that, kind of seeing that got me really excited. Early on, the kind of solution that we brought to market was very basic. It was an open source repo on GitHub called Awesome APIs. That was just a list of good APIs. But as we kind of started seeing that become more and more useful, we realized, hey, there is actually an opportunity to kind of create a better platform and a better experience for developers around discovering and connecting to APIs.
So I will always think of developers and coders in my mind, as the cartoon characters you see in the comic strip that are eating cold pizza and chewing on chiclets at 4 o'clock in the morning because, once you get into a coding a marathon, you never really stop and keep going. I'm assuming that's probably a dated cliche at this point, that you've got people that are going into the platform and doing things just very rapidly, very simply, and really speeding up the processes if they had to start from scratch.
We still have cold pizza at 4 a.m. But no, I think to your point, that it's definitely kind of shifting. And we always talk about, like, you're used to think of a developer in an IDE all day just coding and creating everything from scratch and developing everything from scratch. I think we're kind of seeing this super interesting shift where development now is more about sourcing the best pieces, composing them together, and then creating very thin layers of business logic and UI on top. So all the infrastructure, like, you're either using open source components or APIs or cloud services, composing them together, and then adding kind of a little bit of that unique sauce or the business logic and UI that ties them all together. But it's a very different way of thinking about the software development process.
Absolutely. So if any of our viewers want to find out any more about your company, about RapidAPI, and reach out to you and what you're doing, what would you suggest they do? How should they reach out to get more information?
Yeah, rapidapi.com is the best address. We have tens of thousands of APIs on our platform, and also the ability to use a lot of our tools like Studio for designing, developing, testing APIs. And obviously now all of that goodness is available through the Poly platform as well. So for any Poly APIs, we have the new hub that's being launched.
So congratulations on the launch. Congratulations. Thank you for partnering with us and helping with us. One of the things we understand most about the collaboration industry here at Poly is that collaboration is collaboration. And we work with partners and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And hopefully it'll be a very long relationship. And we certainly appreciate what you brought to the table here. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for being open-minded and modern in how you're viewing this API journey. We're really excited to take it together.
So Robert, why don't you show us a demo of how this works with Lens? Let us take a look at what we're talking about here.
Absolutely, David. Let me bring up a new portal. So what's really neat, this is really easy to find. Go to developer.poly.com if you want. You can use your Lens credentials to log into the account. I've already logged in. And so you can see, here's a new experience. It's organized in two key elements. We have categories over on the left here. This is really organized around product lines, so you can easily find the APIs from Clariti and Lens. And then we have these sections in the middle that are called collections, really making it easy to identify and navigate to the relevant APIs based on use cases. So of course we have the training APIs at the top. Moving down a little bit, we have all the APIs that are really centered around device management and insights. And then down below, we have all the video infrastructure APIs. This is really Clariti. So what I wanted to dive in is actually looking at one of the Lens APIs I think we would have a good time playing around with today. So right when you click on one of those, you open up what is the API playground. Of course, you have embedded discussion board here. This is what I was talking about with that developer experience. This is phenomenal. You have embedded documentation to help you get started. You can load this one up. It's basic overviews of how the APIs work, how to get started. Then we actually distill down into a few different use cases to help spark some of the innovation here. And then when we actually go around playing with this, the Lens APIs are all on GraphQL, which is, I think I mentioned that earlier. You have some really simple tagging here that lets you know what's going on with this API. And you can see this is a cloud API. It's a general release, and it's a GraphQL format. So since it's GraphQL, it's broken down into queries and mutations. So things you can report on or things you can act on, more or less, is the way I like to think about it, David. And in this case, all of these queries and mutations are built around, are focused around platform management. So I'll do a simple one. We'll look at this tenant count. You see some of the documentation embedded right into the query right here, where it's telling me that this query is going to return the total number of tenants given for a user in PolyLens. So let's go ahead and actually add that simple query. We can see how this query populates, and if there were variables related to this query, in this case there isn't, you would be able to input them right here. You can see the code snippets that are applicable to this, and you can organize those code snippets in pretty much any language out there that you can find applicable to something like this. But what I'm going to do is actually run a test really quick. This is key, David, because what you can see here is actually this message that's saying, hey, to access the interactive Lens GraphQL Playground, go to this URL. So it's important to think about this marketplace as really the way to discover and interact and get started with some of the APIs. And then once you're ready and you're comfortable and you really want to bring this to the next level, you have this message here. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring it to a new tab here. And this launches we're really proud of this. This is our interactive GraphQL Playground. You can see that query is actually already pre-populated. This playground is user authenticated as well. So it's going to be querying and mutating off of all the different Lens accounts that I have access to as an IT user of Lens. And I can run this simple one right off the bat. So you can see right now I have access to 12 tenants in our production environment. That's what this is showing me. That's a really simple one. But now you can see I actually have access to all the other hundreds of queries and mutations that are driving the Lens GraphQL platform. That is really neat, because this area here makes it really easy to build more complex queries and mutations. So let me let's see if we can get in trouble, shall we? So let me build.
I'm struggling following you because I don't have any chiclets here, and it's not 4 o'clock in the morning. But assuming, let's pretend that there are chiclets and it is 4 o'clock in the morning. So keep going.
so let's do something that's a little more complicated. So one of the nice things about this is it also is self-documenting. So you see, you can hover over and you can understand what these different queries mean. This one is returning a list of tenant details. So let's actually add that. It's really simple. And right off the bat, you can see the different arguments or filters or the different fields I can build right off of this. So let's add a name of each tenant. Let's see when they were created. Let's get a member count and a device count. So you can see how the query is building itself really quickly. And then actually let's throw in an argument, a filter of sorts, to limit it to, let's see, we can bring in our variables down here. Let's limit it to maybe, let's call it 8 tenants. Okay, so I'm going to run this. And right off the bat, you can see all the responses in a JSON format, which is super helpful. But I can turn in something a little more human readable. So Dave, what you saw me do right there was actually just run a simple multi-tenant report in about 30 seconds or less. Here's all the production environments I have. It's filtered to the top 8. We can modify the different data that we're showing. In this case, here's a top 7 or 8 tenants I have access to, and different device counts and member counts for this. It was that simple. If I can do it, David, a lot of people can.
That's awesome, and it's a little over my head in terms of developing, but I do understand how much easier this is than it used to be. And certainly the launch of RapidAPI, our work on RapidAPI is making things a lot easier for those that do want to go in and customize what they're working on. So thank you. That's a really good demo.
Absolutely.
So Rory, give us an idea of some of the use cases where people may be using these type of APIs in this platform in the Clariti world.
Oh yeah, that's a good question, David. So our customers, as you said, have had the Clariti stack and been using the APIs for a number of years. I've got some really good examples from our customer bases where they've created their own scheduling solution for Clariti to be able to create those meetings, and that leverages the APIs behind the scenes to at a certain time to create that meeting, make sure that it's active, and then allow those users to be able to join it with the multiple different endpoint types: poly, third party, desktop, or mobile client. We've also got others, outside in different regions that leverage the APIs within Clariti to allow some level of control. Maybe they want to put some little control of muting and things like that within an intranet page, so that they can control the meetings themselves and do so within a localized language. Maybe it's a language that we don't happen to support on the current stack, or even just to put it to bit within their own environment so that they can have it within their own intranet page, so that they don't have to leave their own workflow in order to go to join or control a meeting. They can do so within their own environments.
So gentlemen, I assume that what's going to happen with this is what happens with all of our products and solutions and services, is that over the course of the next month or two, as people start playing with it, they're going to educate us about what works, what doesn't, what they can do, things we never envisioned, and start coming up with some fancy things. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, the fantastic thing about this is the innovation factor of our customers, our partners, that go beyond the areas of maybe the user interface that we developed. And as Robert already raised, right, those discussion boards, we're going to be looking at those. We're going to be seeing what other people are doing. We're going to be really thrilled if they can, post some really cool things that they're going to be doing, both with Lens and with Clariti.
Yeah, and if you gentlemen get some really good examples of what people have done and we want to show them off, we can show them off back on the show in a couple of weeks to let people know what's being done and what's out there, and really start to build up a developer community on the RapidAPI platform. So Robert, what's next after this? Where do we go from here? What announcements are you looking forward to this year?
I think that's really the exciting part. Like Rory did a good job talking about, this brings us so much closer to our developer community. We can't wait to see what our community builds, new experiences and innovation we haven't even thought of ourselves. And I really like this notion of building these experiences together. Over the past couple of years, we've built these platforms up. We feel good about where they're at. Now it's time to release it to the world so our community can really take hold of everything we've built and leverage that and build new experiences far past any of the scale that we could offer ourselves. And really make it work for them.
If you're using Lens and you're just a user and you're using Lens Desktop and you experience something that's a little weird or a little different, you can use Lens Desktop to let us know what's going on. Let us know that anything worked or didn't work. You can communicate right with us. We can get the stats. You can upload some of the things, even at the user level or the super user level. But now we're going even one step further, that, if we've got a developer community within your organization or separately, you can now work in the RapidAPI platform to make some of these changes. And there's also bulletin boards there that you can communicate with. So we are going to be developing the software and the firmware for these products together in partnership with our people, not just building them in a black box and releasing them out every once in a while like used to be done 10, 20 years ago. So it's a great step forward, and it sounds like you guys are energized about it.
Absolutely. I think this is just the most exciting part of everything we've been building over the last couple of years. The scale and the opportunities that are in front of us are just almost limitless, which makes it really easy to get up in the morning.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And thank you both for joining me. Rory, if somebody wants to have more information from you or learn more about Clariti, what do you suggest they do?
Oh, we've got an email group that we've got out there, which is DL developer support. They can reach out through that. They can reach out to myself or directly, and we'll be more than happy to talk them through it. Obviously, you've got your partners out there that are also being onboarded into this solution, and your Poly sales and SE teams are doing a fantastic job in keeping everybody in touch with each other.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for joining us today. Robert, same question. How could somebody find out more about this from us, or reach out to you, or reach out to the company to get more information?
Absolutely. I mean, first step would be going to the new developer community portal there at developer.poly.com. There's forums in there. Me and Roy are personally monitoring those as well. We have the Poly support team doing the same. We have different contact links in there. It's that same mailing list that Roy was talking about. Reach out to us directly. We're happy to have conversations.
Okay, terrific. Robert and Roy, thank you very much for joining me. Our friends at RapidAPI, thank you very much as well. That's it for this week's edition of Poly Weekly News. Next week, I'm going to be joined. We had the head of EMEA on, Paul Clark, a couple of weeks ago. Next week, I'm going to be joined by our Senior Vice President of Asia Pac, PJ Shalon, will be on, and he'll tell us what it looks like going on in Asia Pac and his perspective of what's going on with hybrid working and return to office. But for this week, that's it for our show. For all of my colleagues at Poly, my name is David Danto. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.